Now, the other thing about this system is when it was designed to be open. Okay, so those messages are not encrypted, right? They're open, and so there's a lot of open information that moves, and the system, because it was open and approachable, spread very quickly around the world. And now part of the effort that ICANN is involved in is helping to secure that infrastructure. So when you hear of a technical term like DNSSEC or DNS secure, it means really domain name system secure version. It means instead of the message going out to get an address being readable by anybody on the internet, it's encrypted with a password and it's scrambled so you can't read it if you intercept it. And then it just means because it's password protected effectively, you get what you want and someone else can't jump in the middle and give you bad data or information. So ICANN is involved in those policies. The internet, the root of the internet and these domain names is a large business. Okay, some participants of which and leaders of which are here with us this evening. So, and the internet addressing is important for communications and all of the ISPs. So ICANN is then coordinated with all these different company groups or stakeholder groups that have an interest in this infrastructure. So if we look at the first slice domain names, we have the registries like .eu, and there's a registry constituency. Or there's registrars. Who are you going to register your name through? Maybe it's GoDaddy, it's someone here in Europe. That's called a registrar. There's a registrar community, okay, of all those companies that register domain names. Then there's communities of the ISPs that have a constituency. The nonprofit organizations, or non-commercial organizations have a constituency. The internet addressing groups have a supporting organization or constituency. The country code operators have a constituency. So there's all these different bodies of specialists and public interest participating through the nonprofit part. And there's governments, of course, and the European government has been an absolute leader both inside ICANN and on the outside. So the government stakeholder group is called the Government Advisory Committee. And I think Ambassador Janis Karklins, is he with us here tonight? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Janis.
Too close to you.
You're too close. I'm sorry. So Janis has been our chairman of the GAC for 3 years, and I can't tell you how sad we are to lose him because he is just an incredible leader with the wisdom of a diplomat, the genius of an engineer that he is, and just an amazing way with people and organizations. But we are happy for UNESCO, who's one of our partners, where he will be, I believe, is it Deputy Secretary General? Yes. Very prestigious position, and we're happy for him and sad to leave. But he's led the GAC, or the Government Advisory Committee, which has roughly 90 or 100 members. So that's another constituency. And governments do have a special role in GAC, in ICANN. So that's what we do. Now, I want to thank Europe for many reasons. I mean, one is that you've been an innovator in driving the internet and developing the internet for the world from very early on, driving standards, driving the development and expansion of the network itself. I heard recently that the EU reported that growth in the last 15 years, half of the growth was due to productivity gains from ICT. Half of the growth in Europe. And you now have a very ambitious digital agenda, which is driving efforts here in Europe forward and setting a framework for the world with your 7 different programs in the agenda. You've also engaged, the European Parliament has engaged with the world, the WISIS process for internet governance and the IGF or internet governance process these last 5 years. And Catherine and Malcolm have been involved in that from the very beginning, and you've helped to shape that. And in fact, WISIS has been coordinated, or an IGF has been coordinated out of Switzerland. The European Parliament also recently adopted the Internet Governance Resolution, which is a very positive model supporting the multi-stakeholder model globally. And that's a good example for other countries. But you've always recognized the global nature of the internet. But I have a special thank you tonight, because your specific efforts in the European Parliament helped to change and reform ICANN last year. I took office on July 1st, and the first thing I was asked to do was to work on restructuring our relationship with the United States government. Because the former relationship with the oversight of the Department of Commerce was expiring on September 30th. But there was a desire to do something new. Thanks to your effective communications and efforts of promoting the multi-stakeholder model and the further globalization of ICANN, we were able to reach an affirmation of commitments with the Department of Commerce. In that affirmation, the review process of ICANN moved from being done for the Department of Commerce and published just to them to being done by the world of stakeholders in ICANN and published to the world. So it effectively internationalized one of the two key contracts we have as an organization. And I personally, we all want to thank you, the European parliamentarians. Maybe we can even make a toast. Can we make a toast to all of you? Cheers. Well, now you've got your wine and I've got my wine. This could get very interesting. But really, it was amazing what you accomplished, and it was because of the trusted relationship that you've developed with other countries around the world, including the United States, that happened. And I think that's a good model for the future as well. So appreciation on that, and that again, of course, the affirmation created the review process where your commissioner, retired commissioner, Fabio Colasanti, is now serving. I also wanted to talk about a little bit about international domain names. So another thing that's happening in our first slice is that when the internet was created, all the names were in Latin characters. But many people speak, of course, whether it's Bulgarian and Cyrillic, or Greek, or Chinese, or Hindi, or Japanese, they don't use English characters or Latin characters. We've now introduced that on the internet, and it's extremely popular and really globalizes the technical foundation. We also have a lot of work in stability that you care about, stability, resilience, and that's a part of, we have other advisory committees such as the Security and Stability Advisory Committee that focus on that problem and have been involved in DNSSEC. Incidentally, the first top-level domain in the world that implemented DNSSEC was Sweden. So Mr. Parliamentarian Engström, who may be a cousin of mine with that last name, cheers to you in Sweden for being the first to move on DNSSEC, and you've also been so involved in the work that we've done. So, and in DNS security, for the first time in history, the root of the internet will be encrypted as of July 15th of this year. It's a very important date, and it provides a foundation for the internet moving forward. So in conclusion, I want to thank you Europeans for leading. Thank you for leading in ICANN. Thank you for contributing on the outside to our evolution in driving the internet. And one last thing is I want to ask for your help, because we need your help. Because the internet model, the multi-stakeholder model, is at risk. And there are other parties that don't want it to remain a multi-stakeholder model. They'd like to make it a government-only model and have these functions fulfilled either in the United Nations or in the ITU as part of the United Nations. And there's important votes that will come up in the UN General Assembly. And if you can please go back to your countries and speak to your UN representative in New York City and ask them in July and December, there'll be votes. Ask them to please show up and vote for the multi-stakeholder model, for the continuance of the Internet Governance Forum. It's a specific ask that each and every one of you could do to really help us. So that concludes my remarks. Enjoy your dinner, and thank you very much. And here's to Europe. Thank you.